just because I pressed the button right at 6:01. We're pretty much really close. Hey, how's everybody doing, by the way? We're going to continue on. So we got some armor for... For a second, I just stole some from one of the desks. But we got some armor for Griffin and Load here. We don't necessarily have armor for everyone else, which is fine. I think we're going to have Inu kind of go the Flotsam Ninja kind of equipment route, because I think they're going to be our into that faction, so that we can help both the Okranite factions, at least until most of the other factions are kind of worked out. And I'm not entirely sure if it's a requirement or if it's one of those things like in the case of the Holy Nation, of where it's kind of more things just kind of it more greases the wheels, so to speak, of diplomacy. But either way, we're gonna kind of try to maintain a little bit of neutrality between the Okranite factions, since we're kind of mainly just trying to find out about Okran with this character. His whole goal is with that, and with Griffin, which we just got, his whole idea is to find out exactly what happened about the first extinction. I think he wants to know, or about the second extinction. I forgot which one he was trying to go after. I think it was the first extinction. It doesn't matter. Extinction's an extinction, whatever. First or second. So we're going to how much money? Oh, I think we were actually deciding on what to purchase. If we're going to buy another set of armor for, I think maybe Bard or Hiroto, or maybe even something for Inu that's lighter. Could also get some chainmail for a shirt for Load here. It's gonna impact him even more so. It will give some pretty good resistances and will protect his arms, of which he only has one. So arm, I should say. It will protect his arm. Ironically, something like Trader's Leathers would be really good for this kind of playthrough. See, this is one of those things where it's really cool. Like when you do, like restrictions really help highlight game mechanics. Like some of these armors, like the Assassin's armor and in this case the Trader's Leather, mostly favor the right arm. And if you have if you lost your left arm or something like that, and for narrative reasons you can't replace it, in the case of being an Okranite or simply not being on friendly terms with anyone who would provide them, that is a thing to consider when deciding your armament. We could get Griffin a helmet too. I don't think there's a really good one out there. Tin cans are pretty good, but it's going to hurt our attack and dodge skill effect, which is not really what we want going into this. Now, is there a hat trader, come to think of it here? Or a helmet trader? I don't remember where all the trader locations are on top of my head. Bakery, weapon shop, armory, that's going to be like the guards. Armory. I think these are just bars down here, right? Yeah, just bars. And then, oh, that's a barracks. I thought it was a shinobi tower. I guess not. Just a barracks, normal barracks. I mean, I've last episode mentioned a shinobi tower, but it looks like it's just normal barracks. Okay, so it looks like we either get heavy armor or nothing here. We also get some shirts, and that we could actually distribute to everybody if they have plenty of bad shirts. High grade rusty chain mail. I don't know if that's really worth the negative there. Dodge skill 80%. Dodge skill 80%. Dodge skill 90% pretty much. When it's doing like the 0.9 times, it's pretty much it's down to 90% of what you have. Roughly, that's pretty much what it's going to be. Combat speed is going to be a hit. Dexterity effect, that is a similar dexterity effect. I think that Rusty is not all that much worse. I mean, it's got even worse stealth. But let's compare standard to standard. How about shoddy to shoddy? So 2 and 7 protection, 4 and 12 for an extra, like, I think they're the same actually. Hold on. They're actually the same price, so there's no reason why we shouldn't just take the better one unless it has some kind of increased resistance or decreased weight. Yeah, that's actually kind of weird. I would just take the normal chainmail then. Maybe just at the shoddy level, there's not much different. And then plate boots, which I think Griffin only has drifter's boots. And I think most other people don't even have anything. So I think we might want to just go with some basic stuff. I think we want to double down on load having some gear. Because we really can't afford, don't want our protagonist here running into too much trouble. This is a little bit worse, but I think Griffin can handle it. Or actually, it's a one that standard is way too expensive, and high is way too expensive. Oh, actually, he's got some. Hold on, what is that? Is that chain shirt? Dark leather shirt. Okay, hold on. It's a stealth effect, and it has some good protections. Actually, better protections, believe it or not. Less area, though, which is not super great. So we're going to switch this out, because he's going to be kind of heavy armored. We're going to give her his dark leather shirt. If we're going to go Flotsam Ninja with her. Because I think they're exact. Oh, well, I think, yeah, that one's just a little bit better. We may even want to change their weapon. I need to run into the Flotsam Ninja again. Ninjas again, because I can't remember exactly what their gear came out to. I only have the Swamp Ninjas in my head of what kind of gear they had. For some reason, I can't think of the Flotsam Ninjas. Hold on. I hope I'm not saying the wrong name. Let's see. I don't think we've actually met them at all. I know they're in the north. We should probably go meet them. That'd probably be a good idea. Maybe this episode we can go meet them. And kind of get an idea of what gear we need to get Inu if she's going to kind of go that route. For everybody else, I think we're gonna have. I don't think we have any more money to really get anything else. Yeah, I think everything else is pretty much above our pay grade. Except maybe Trader's Leathers. And actually a helmet. We could get a helmet. Let's get a helmet for Griffin. Let's throw a helmet on him, because I think the hat, as cool as it could be to just have just a normal hat, I don't think it's gonna help. I think we can give it to Inu, because they're not gonna have really any helmet anytime soon. So yeah, why not? Or how about Bard? So he's got a hat. Bards have hats, right? Normally, Bards typically. I imagine Bards having hats. Actually, I'm gonna give them the katana. I'm gonna switch him to having the saber, because I think they use lighter weapons. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, generally anything with ninja in the name uses lighter weapons. So if I'm wrong, I can switch that out in the future. But until I'm right or wrong on that, we'll see. But we want to have everyone running at kind of a similar speed, which is going to be slow because we have heavy armored people in the formation. So Inu, if they're going to go the way of the Flotsam Ninjas, they're probably going to be our scout. And which we probably need to get more scouts too. Now the question is if we're going to try to kind of have like two factions, with our faction, one directly mirroring the Holy Nation and one directly mirroring Flotsam, or if we're going to want to kind of go somewhere in between, having kind of a mixed match. Which we may. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We might have a little bit of a mixed match. Let's see if there's anyone to recruit, so that if I need to get some money here, is it worth coming back to recruit? I think there was last episode we came back to. Or last episode we did. Let's get some food real quick. Dried meats are always great. Oh, the little boy who got dismembered by skeletons. The #1 best-selling children's book today. Little Timmy liked climbing trees and playing hide and seek with his friends, but he always skipped on his prayers. Then Timmy met his first skeleton. Oh gosh, you can see what I mean of where skeletons are not. Now, I'm not gonna spoil some of the lore, but there's some good reasons for there to be some hesitation. So it's definitely a little bit over the top, but there are some, like, as you learn, there are some things to kind of see why there is that little bit of worry. Normally you just need to find a skeleton and talk to them to kind of get an idea that once upon a time there wasn't necessarily a good relationship with skeletons and other people and the other members of the Kenshi world. Let's go ahead and I think there's one more. It's been a while. I think hub is going to be somewhere around in this area. I know it's been so long. So, oh no, I do not want to leave quite yet. I think there's still people around, but I need to find where that copper deposit is. Ah. Oh, that was the bad one. Where's the good one? The good one's like way over here, isn't it? Raw iron. Yeah, and then that was right across from the copper one. Yep. Okay, so we're going to have the load kind of just stand by. We're going to have Hiroto and Anu do the there. We're going to have Griffin and Bard do the copper this time. I don't know how we divided last time. Doesn't really matter. But actually, I want to just mention, you guys have given some pretty good recommendations over time. I'll see what I can incorporate. Possibly even changing a little bit of the format of how I do things. I think for the most part, I'm going to probably stay the same at least for a while, depending on just how I think it'll turn out. And we'll see. If I feel comfortable doing it, I might even do like kind of a normal kind of run for myself. And it feels comfortable if certain like changes to form I feel comfortable with, I'll try to incorporate it. Other things, if it feels forced, I want to stick with what comes natural. And right now I think we've gotten to a pretty good groove. But I do like suggestions. So if you guys have suggestions, don't feel. I mean, worst case scenario, I don't do them. That doesn't mean they're a bad suggestion. It just means that for me it could be forced, you know. And that's something that the greatest thing about any artistic kind of ideas you have in terms of, because streaming is kind of an art to some degree. It's kind of subjective. If you like one thing, or if someone else likes another thing, or if someone else's style is different, like comedy, it's kind of like stand-up comedy. Some people can make a joke and it be funny, but then they're bad at different kinds of humor. Like some people could be really funny and be sarcastic. Other people could be, kind of deadpan, where it's like it stays steady. It stays real steady, and it works great for them. It just depends on your style, but definitely, if you have an idea, and if you feel like there is a void to fill in any form of medium, I recommend doing it. I mean, I really, there's nothing really you can lose. I mean, unless you go out and do something, illegal, which, hopefully, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But, it's something to always consider the fact of, like if you've ever played D&D, sometimes I found that I was best at making the games I wanted to play for other people, and because I knew what I liked about certain things, and I was able to express that with other. I was able to express that with other people, but you can't necessarily always necessarily have that back towards you. It's kind of like a. It's like a. I guess I imagine like an artist would have that similar kind of situation where they want to see a kind of drawing, but no one else is drawing that drawing, but they know exactly what it looks like. And it's like, well, you know what? Maybe I should draw it because it's a great idea if you're passionate and you're moved by it. It's a great idea, and how many people see it as a great idea it can only be found out through putting it out there. And again, unless it's something ridiculous, I don't think you'll have too much trouble with it. Worst case scenario, nobody sees it. And then nobody knows. That's the best part of failure. If you fail, nobody notices. Or nobody cares. And if you succeed, it might not always look like you succeeded. Like sometimes it might be people laugh at, people might find it funny in a way you didn't intend it to be funny, or find it meaningful in a way you didn't intend to be meaningful. There's actually a tip some people mentioned to me about writing, because I always really wanted to write. If someone attributes meaning to something you've written, but you didn't really notice it at first, but then you can kind of see where they're getting at it, don't be afraid to necessarily say, yeah, that's what it meant. Because if not all, you don't always necessarily, know at the time. You might know it emotionally, I guess you could say, but you don't always know it in words. Just don't be ridiculous with it. Don't if you know clearly like you meant something different, I wouldn't jump at the first thing that comes up, because that could backfire for you. Backfire for you. So it's got to be an honest attribution. There was one that I don't remember what movie was a good example. I know Memento, I think, was a movie that was intended to be watched backwards. I think backwards was the way it was intended to be written or watched. And like I think in the director's cut, it has it backwards. And there's a lot of meanings you could attribute to that. That would be, and not to spoil it, but it deals with memory loss to some extent. It's not a spoiler. It's pretty apparent in the story. So don't worry, I'm not ruining it for you. Hopefully, but it deals with memory loss, and so that's a very if you watch it in that manner, it's a very natural way you can see where the intention was. But that doesn't necessarily mean that if you watch it straight through and you watch it, I think it was released theatrically straight through and then like backwards. I don't know exactly how that worked out, but I do know the director was really upset because they were going to release it playing chronologically. And he wanted it to be reverse chronological in this specific order. So, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you watch it chronologically, there's a different meaning there that person didn't think up of. But it may not be the main meaning you may have wanted to get by with something. Comedy is a lot simpler because there's a lot less concept of meaning in it. You can find a lot of meaning in comedy, but the best part about meaning in comedy is a lot of it is uplifting or cathartic, which is a lot easier to I think get something across that you want to get across. Which is why it's always good to be funny. My recommendation to you, if you're also out there, if you're handling criticism, my main recommendation for you is to initially look at it in the most positive way you can, because 9 out of 10 times it wasn't meant to be bad anyway. It's probably very likely positive. It's probably good for you, believe it or not. Generally, I don't necessarily think it's no news is bad news. I don't think it's so much that no, what's the word for it? No publicity. No, there's no such thing as bad publicity. That's the saying. There's a saying of there's no such thing as bad publicity. I don't necessarily think that's entirely true. There's definitely bad publicity out there, but I don't think it's But I don't think most people it really is going to. It's one of those not hard and fast rules. A lot of times it works out, just having the publicity at all works out, but it's one of those it's not one of those hard and fast rules in which you would stake a lot on. If you get what I'm saying. So my recommendation is to, if you're wanting to do content creation of any kind, is really stick to it, and don't necessarily try to do something that's shock and awe, unless you feel like it's intrinsic to the work, whatever work you're wanting to do. Like comedy, a lot of times can be really shocking, depending on the type of comedy, or different things like that. It doesn't have to be sensational, but just try to put something out there. Put something out there. Don't worry about necessarily what it's gonna turn out to be, because that's not good. I think we have possibly a hiver. Yeah, we have a hiver, so he's not going to be very happy with that. There may be a fight. We may be in the middle of an upcoming fight. So if you haven't seen in Kenshi, Holy Nation do not like hivers. They basically see like hivers and Shek and pretty much everything that's non-human, but the not a skeleton is basically like it can be reincarnated as human, but it's like they kind of have a caste system where they're below human. They're like seen as not good. They have different opinions, I think, between the Shek and hivers and exactly how that's specified, but skeletons are irredeemable to them though. So they'll capture and try to basically put hivers in a place in which they can be quote unquote redeemed, kind of thing, called rebirth. So they think that they can end up come back as a human. They don't make necessarily a profit off it like the United Cities do, which is kind of open market for everybody. It's open market for everybody. You fall down, if you fall asleep in the wrong place in town, it's open game. But if you're a hiver or a Shek, and and for some reason they decide to, in this case, I don't know if they're going to ultimately go after this hiver. They may very well, but you could be in some serious trouble. The only humans I think that they really have trouble with are the humans of the United Cities, just because they're United Cities, and United Cities was in a war with them. And then the Flotsam Ninjas. I really hope that I'm naming that right. I think it's the Flotsam Ninjas. It may be something else, but I think it was the Flotsam Ninjas. Okay, we might be in a situation in which we are full up on machinery before we get back. Or full up on iron. We'll have to set these guys to mining again. I want to make some money because I want to get everyone equipped. And also get some time to talk to you guys. Some time to just share that I think that you guys have some good creative ideas. I think that some of them I'm very appreciative of you suggesting, because I may end up using some of them very well, and I think some of them will turn out really well. I think the volume ones were absolutely helpful because I think the volume ones are the ones where it's like you can kind of tell it by ear to some extent, but it's hard to, when it's on your own, to necessarily know what other people like and what other people find best. So it's good. It's really good to get input, particularly on anything mechanical. It's really helpful. But if you like, I think someone at one point was asking about specs. You don't even need great specs. Like I'm doing this right now. I'm on an MSI laptop. And that's it. I'm not doing anything. It's not something super like, and my first videos, which I did years back, I actually deleted a lot of my videos. I started out on YouTube, and now I'm doing streaming. But I had started out when I was back doing more like video content. I started out on a MacBook. That's it. It's not a big it's not a big production necessarily. I mean, and a MacBook that I happen to just how do you call it? That I happen to be able to use for school, which I was very fortunate in that regard. And not everyone can end up getting use of that, but if you can get any computer, I mean, if you can get access to any computer, a phone even, or something like that, you could do something. Not necessarily streaming games necessarily, but doing any kind of content, you can easily you can do it. And if you can't, and if for some reason if you have to absolutely go on the bare minimum, absolutely bare minimum, you could actually even have other people post it for you. If you know what I mean. Like, you could just have someone else. Like, I think I want to say the Oxcast. I think Simon technically had. I think Lewis technically is who got. I don't know if I'm saying this right. I don't know if people watch I don't know if anyone who watches me watches the Oxcast or not. But if you look them up, there's Lewis and Simon that I think were like the original ones. And I think that Lewis discovered Simon. It's been a long time since I've seen, but and he used. I think it was Lewis that was mostly did the equipment, and now they both are in the thing and doing everything. So, sometimes if you can't get the resources necessary yourself, or just don't have the resources laying around, or that you don't necessarily think you might not find yourself super funny on your own. There's always other people out there that are funny and that can do stuff. I mean, I think that that's the biggest untapped kind of potential out there. Is there's a bunch of people with great ideas, but then they don't think it'll work, and it's a real shame. I really wish that wasn't the case, but I think that if you give it a shot, again, you can't lose any more than not have done being. I should say you couldn't lose any more than you don't have. Is that even make sense? You can't. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't end up with less because you already have, I guess, less time. But if you don't enjoy doing it, then you're not really. I don't know what to say for that. I mean, why not do something that you enjoy? Because you can probably make it. You could probably, like, for example, like if I really enjoyed. There's like I wrote manuals for a little while, and I really enjoyed writing manuals. I enjoyed that. It was more like help documentation, not manuals so much, but like help documentation, and that was fun. I enjoyed that. But I also did this I think back in college. I did this, like I did the video content and stuff like that. And so I think I got into that whole tutorial kind of thing and I did that for Dark Dire. I think if you guys watched the Dark Dire series, I still want to go back and do that. But I've done a lot of different things, and I can say that you definitely, trust me, you win out if you find out something that you don't like. Because then you never have to do it again, unless it's waking up in the morning and then you're in trouble. If that's something you don't want to do, I can't help you there. I wish you the best though. Let's hope that's not the case for anybody. But if you like doing anything, try to make that work for you. Try to find someone who likes what that produces. And then you got your audience right there. And if you don't have an audience, if you enjoy doing it, you really didn't you didn't lose anything. I think honestly, if you had to ask me, that's why I think that gaming videos work so have worked so well. Gaming, it's like streaming and gaming videos have worked so well is because people like games. People like watching games. I have my brother, I have brothers, and like we watch each other play video games whenever the other one wasn't doing anything back when we were kids. So I think that a lot of people try to get technical with why people like watching video games, and it's like you're there. I think it's simpler than that. I think it's just curiosity. I think one of my best clips happened was from back when we were doing the what was the name of? Well, I don't remember quite the name off the top of my head, but it was the robot. It was the mecha one. I can't remember off the top of my head. Angel something? So, I don't remember quite off the top of my head. I wish I remembered off the top of my head, but I don't. But I think the best performing video, or clip from that, the best performing clip from that was the end video, like like the bad end. If you lose the game, because people are curious, they want to know what happens if you lose, because they don't want to lose, but they want to know. Just so happens if they happen to lose, what do they have to lose? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, are they gonna is everything gonna go wrong? Because I know, like, back when Mass Effect was big, I watched exactly all the worst possible scenarios. Now, I think all but like the second one, which is I got a funny story with that one while we were running to deliver some copper and iron. My brother was watching me play Mass Effect 2, and we were about like halfway through all the loyalty missions, and he was like, "You know what? I think you got like everyone you really cared about doing their loyalty mission done with, and I'm about to fall asleep. So why don't you just do the end and just load back if you if something happens. I just want to see what the end is, right?" And so I do the end, but if you never play Mass Effect 2, you've kind of got to do the loyalty missions. Otherwise, you get very, very unhappy endings. It's not really a you should do it. It's a more of you've got to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna have a really, really rough time with certain things. Let's go ahead here and pause. Install this. And let's just say, without any spoilers, that it was a traumatizing experience, and I mean that in a funny way. I don't mean that in like a really, really, really bad. But it was. But believe it or not, it was kind of. It made me not play the game again. It authentically did not. I did not want to play the game again. It made me where I just didn't. I didn't play it. I never touched it again. I jumped straight over to Mass Effect 3. I think I finally finished it. Okay, I did finish it, but then I never came back to it. I finished it with there. I kept the bad ending. Not the total bad ending, because it got half bad ending. Because I felt like now that I knew it was important, I couldn't go back. And this is where we get into a conversation I mentioned earlier about permadeath, and sometimes things like that can end up ruining the game for experimenting. It's good if in some situations. It's great in some situations. But if the game's not designed for it, don't necessarily self-impose it on yourself, because developers sometimes like throwing out curveballs that kind of punish experimentation, just like or what if scenarios. And if you're kind of the person who wants to stick with what if scenarios, Kenshi is great for you. Narrative games, not so much. It's like every decision is very, very much important in narrative games, or they don't matter at all. So there's either no experimentation or the character dies, basically. Characters die in narrative games. So keep that in mind. Things like Kenshi, great for experimentation. Your person dies, there's other people in the world. You're not the hero, right? We might be doing a bronze man with this particular one. I haven't decided because we haven't run into a situation where loads died. So we haven't had that situation. We have not had anyone actually... We've not actually loaded back on anything. So we haven't had to actually decide on that. I think we actually suggested that if we did lose load, we'd move the mantle of leader over to Griffin if he survived too. Or if he survived the ordeal. As he's the best fighter of the group. Oh, we got it's full up here. And where's the copper? There we go. Full up on both. Okay, so Griffin and Bard. Oh, they're both really hungry. I have been working them to absolute death here. We're going to have everyone run back in, go to a bar real quick, and let's get them some food. Actually, let's run to the first bar we run into, just so we don't take up too much time. It's funny, I never have really gone into hunger all that much before this game. I only played with like one solo hunter, and I always find that really fun. I know, and I don't actually even. I think the one time I did like a Swamp Ninja-esque campaign where I did like base. I think I did a few, but very, very few do I end up doing big, big bases. Because normally someone gets harpooned in the back and it destroys it for me. Normally it's one of my, not normally the main character I see is like the main character, but it's a character that I really wanted to keep, and it kind of ruined the fun for me. Normally it's one of those situations where you want to avoid, if possible. It's kind of funny. I like permadeath games, but then I hate them at the same time. It's weird. I like Kenshi where I could just leave it the way it is, but I like to have the option. I like to know I could go back. I'd like to choose not to, rather than have it be forced upon me. I know some people are the exact opposite, where they're like, if I can choose to go back, I will go back, things like that. But if it's a long game, I want the ability to go back, because I play sometimes in the really early mornings, probably much longer than I really should be playing, oftentimes. And sometimes I make just silly decisions in games. So oftentimes I try to balance that out. But if you always play when you're alert, then you probably never have that situation. Also, good recommendation. If you do like permadeath games, don't play while tired. You will absolutely regret it. Kenshi, you can kind of play while tired as long as you don't run into beak things. Yeah, if you run into beak things, or if you're wearing really heavy armor and aren't really skilled. So in the situation we're in, we have to be kind of alert, because we have a lot of people in heavier armor, with heavier packs, without much skill. So we're in danger here, theoretically. As our strength goes up, we won't be in as much danger. Okay, we'll stay in the middle again. We'll have these two do the iron now, and Griffin and Bard do... I may have already divided it that way before. I don't know. Doesn't really matter all that much. Because in this case, mining is mining, whichever one they do, they're still getting the same amount of laboring, pretty much. Now we can help them out actually a little bit from here. Because this is actually 3 people. Yeah, that's 3 people. So we can actually help them out. Get iron a little bit faster. We're going to be rich by the end of this episode. I tell you, we're going to be rich. We got 14,000. Great way to make money in Kenshi. Absolutely great way. There's no real lose situation unless you get mugged. And then that's kind of a lose. But, I mean, you know, generally you got toughness from that. So you get up, you're a little tougher. Unless you got your head chopped off. As long as you're not gonna die, you get up a little bit tougher. Which I always find kind of funny in video games. I get the concept, or I do kind of find it funny, though, because generally, if you got your absolute, if you got it handed to you, right? If you just absolutely got beat up in the middle of nowhere, with no medical attention and stuff like that, and you crawled your way back to town, you are not tougher. Oftentimes, you may be mentally tougher, but you are physically probably in bad shape. You're probably in real bad shape, and you'll probably have to be go and rest for a long time. You're gonna get I had basically something with my legs, basically, where I had to be in a wheelchair a little bit in high school. Absolutely. And I was in RTC for a long time, so I did a lot of running. I ran a lot. And that absolutely reversed everything that I had done in RTC. All the running. I think it was because I kind of ran with weight. That may have somehow impacted it. It's still kind of up in the air exactly what happened. It's very odd. It was basically, so funny doctor story. So basically, I had somehow everybody thinking it was something else, from a spider bite all the way to rheumatoid arthritis, all the way to erythromyalgia, which is typically something that happens in your hands when you're older. Nobody knew what it was. It was like nobody knew what it was. Nobody knew for sure. I think that the most, I think at, like toward the end, I think rheumatologists kind of were like, yeah, it's definitely erythromyalgia, definitely. I don't think anyone was especially definitive necessarily. I'd like to think that the one where the least long term consequences is true, but theoretically all of them have kind of some room for skepticism. In the case of and if you want to know a funny thing of when you have family members that are wanting to not take one thing, and you have the doctor thinking you're going to be taking one thing, and then you end up in some back room with someone who's like, like with someone who's giving you a shot, and you're like, I really don't know what this is at this point. But that's a fun experience. Believe it or not, like I don't know why, but to me that was a fun experience. It may have been nightmarish to other people. I enjoyed every second of it because I didn't really necessarily. I don't know if it was denial of where I was like, nothing bad's gonna happen in the end. It's gonna work out. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. I guess it's optimism. Optimism will get you through everything, I think, or at least make you think you're getting through everything. So there's that. That's got merit to it. Sometimes it's worth thinking that you're winning. But believe it or not, I think the worst parts when I was having to move around. The doctor stuff was great to me. I enjoyed that because I got to see all kinds of medical equipment I never really got to see before. I love to watch like that. I think how it's made and stuff like that. So the intellectual parts of it were amazing. I loved the intellectual parts of it. Hated the actual part that involved moving. That part that I could have done without. I don't need I didn't need to move. But don't necessarily think that anything that bad happens to you has to be a tragedy. Sometimes it can be the funniest thing in your life. Sometimes it is the very funniest thing in your life. You could have a very boring life, and that could be the most enjoyment you get out of it. So no, I'm sure that the doctors thought it was kind of funny. That my family often seemed a lot more worried than I was. It was not something I would want again, but looking back on it, the doctor stuff was pretty cool. Moving around, not cool. Not cool at all. Also for any prospective teachers out there, or any prospective, basically anyone who's going to be doing anything with kids, don't tell a kid that don't tell a kid in a wheelchair to get out of the wheelchair. Even as a joke, it's not cool. It's not cool. But don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Because they might, because the thing is, you might it can be like something that they're taking in stride, but then like now everyone's kind of expecting you to do something which you can't do, and it puts them in a weird spot. Not to say angry at that, not angry at that at all, but it's one of those things where like in jokes, it can get to a situation of where it's like, okay, can't follow up this joke and this is gonna come up weird. So don't for your own sake. It's not necessarily they're gonna hate you. It's not like they're gonna hate you for the rest of their life, because I don't have any hard feelings in that regard. But it can make things a little odd. But other people might be different. Other people might gladly do that. I don't know. But at least in my case, it was one of those odd situations of, oh, you seem to be having this really well. Have you tried moving around outside of it? It kind of puts them on pressure to test it out. And in the case of whatever I had, basically the more I moved around, the more it was worse. So kind of running into that of where people wanted to see what exactly was going on, and it kind of exacerbating it. So not something to necessarily worry about hard feelings with, but just worry about that. Now, it's not something I have anymore. I think it had to do with my exercise, like how I was exercising, that led to this. But it was months long. I was in a wheelchair for pretty much much of my senior year. I had to deal with it, and I don't know if anyone else has had it. If anyone else has had that, I'd really like to know, because I'd like to know if that was something I brought upon myself from exercising the way I did. I exercised with weight. If anyone else who exercised with weight and ran a lot, like ran a lot, I basically ran home from to school to after RTC, which we did exercises in RTC, and then I would run back home all the way to home, which is a few miles. Not really a few miles, like maybe like a mile. It was uphill both ways, but I don't know. And then that somehow that really kind of messed me up leg wise. But I was still able to move, but it was like one of those things of where like the more you move, like the more you could move your legs, the worse it would get. Like it was like it would get red and it would kind of get inflamed. So if someone else has had that, like it could get real bad. Like it could get really, really swelled. So if someone else has had something like that, I'd like to know, because if it is something that people can get, I think that that's important to have people know. I think it is. I don't know about anyone else, but I think it's kind of important, because I've never had it happen again. So that to me kind of indicates either I got lucky, or someone out there might be in that same situation of thinking that they've got some kind of lifelong illness, and suddenly it disappears. So, definitely something to try to get around. And if you do know somebody with it, right? Maybe or having similar symptoms, maybe you have this story now to tell, to see if that helps them out at all. Maybe, they don't have to go through all the, admittedly kind of cool things I had to go through. It's like, again, all the doctor stuff was cool, because I like kind of that kind of stuff. I kind of like machinery and stuff like that, like medical machinery. I like to know how things work. But it was one of those situations where you want to be the doctor, not the patient. Or not, I guess you shouldn't say doctor. You want to be you want to be the onlooker. You want to be just some random guest going, what did that guy have? I want to know, because it's kind of cool, because you're using this machine. You're using, oh, that's an MRI. Oh, okay, so cool. You know what I mean? But everyone, you probably had that experiences, and I'm sure everyone's had an experience in their own life, particularly when anything medical. I'm almost sure someone's had an experience where they've gone into a medical situation and been like, this is kind of, despite whatever situation I'm in, I mean, this is kind of cool. I mean, the machinery. That was always my outlook on life. That was always my outlook on life. At least that's cool. I think the worst situations I've ever been were the situations that were tough situations with no mechanical element to them. If they had a mechanical element to them, they were cool. Even if it was if it was a Rube Goldberg machine, if that's the word, the Rube Goldberg machine, of where it's like the thing with the ball bearing going through, like a giant Rube Goldberg. I can't say the name. Rube Goldberg machine. I don't remember. Where it's like the ball rolling down, and I'm in the way and possibly going to get messed up by this trap. I'd have to say it'd be kind of cool to see the trap. I'd quickly get out of that trap, I'd hope. But it'd be cool to see someone go through a lot of effort to make that trap. Not something I'd want to do or recommend anyone to want to do. It'd be cool. It's one of those things, cool as an observer. I think that's why people like watching horror movies, to one extent. I think there's different reasons for everybody. I don't think there's any universal reason. But the only horror movies I could really ever stand to watch were ones that involved, Hungry Bandits. That's not good. That's a lot of Hungry Bandits. Did I population increased or something? They just walked right by me. Maybe they saw that I'm starving. They're like, that poor guy. He's starving. Oh, that's it. They're starving, not me. I'm doing good. We're all doing good. Okay, we have 2 people who are starving. What's going on there? You shouldn't be starving. But I think that that's one of those things of where it'd be kind of cool on one end. At least you could have that element of where it's like, that's kind of, oops, sorry. But they're like, oh, well, at least that's kind of cool. At least it was creative. I mean, that's got to be the worst. Like something that's like a lame catchphrase. Like that'd be the worst thing. Like the worst thing ever would be for it to be like you to be suffering from something really, really like uninteresting. Like that's got to be the worst because now like nobody even has a grim fascination in helping you. It's at that point it's just it's all I think that's like a weird bad commentary. I think that's kind of a sad commentary, but it's in some way true that as weird as it is, sometimes having the rare problems make you feel better about it than having like the problems everybody gets. Because if it's the problem everybody gets, then it's like people have heard it 50 times. If no one's ever heard about it, it's like, oh man, you don't even know what it does to you. It's like, it's bad. And now I'm sure people have had things way worse that are definitely not something you want to have and find it funny in no way. You know what I'm saying? But I think that if you're in the situation, like if you're in a situation, at least for me, different people deal with grief differently. Like I dealt with the way I handle kind of whether if I've lost something or someone or something like that. I always try to think of it positively. I think there's kind of a situation of where you either mourn or you celebrate. I think that's really what it breaks down. You either mourn your situation, which can be totally justifiable, and totally justifiable, totally great for you. By great, I mean sometimes that helps you move past whatever problem you're doing, right? And sometimes mourning to the point of where you don't care to mourn anymore about something, while sad sounding, can actually kind of be good. I think that's if you can't celebrate something, basically bawling until you're done is pretty much next best kind of situation, because I think the sooner you can get a grasp on what you're going to do next, the better off you're going to be. I think that's just my opinion, which is by no means law, but that's just my opinion on the matter. That a lot of times you're better served getting a grasp on what it is you're facing, how bad it's going to be, what's the fallout from it, and what can you make of it. Because right now, if you have something bad, it's a total net loss, right? If it's bad, if something bad happened, it's a total net loss if you look at it that way. But you have had an event happen in your life which could mean something different to you. A lot of people like to say, there's the whole saying that like whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger. That's in some ways kind of crap. I don't think that's true. I think that's one of those situations of making it better, but I think that it's not entirely in the wrong place. I think that the reason why I have a problem with it is in the situation of sometimes in Kenshi where you get absolutely beat up. You'd be in tremendous physical trauma for a long time. Someone beat you half to death, particularly with something sharp. You'd be in some serious trouble. You got injuries that probably maim you for the rest of your life. You'd probably be really bad off. But there's one way of looking at it like that. But then you could also look at how we're doing with the story with Lode. Lode's here. He's lost an arm. Our story going with it, he's lost an arm. He's kind of not going for the whole prosthetic route. He's going to do what he can do with what he's got. And I think that's the empowering thing I think about restrictions in stories. I think that by making the God character, in that word I mean someone who can do everything, they're perfect, they don't have any problems, nothing's ever hard for them, you rob yourself of having any fun. Because if they mess up, they're no longer that character. You can't fail. You have no chance of failure. If Load gets the absolute poop beat out of him, right? I'm not going around thinking that he's supposed to be the best person on Earth, right? He could die and Griffin be the main character here, and the story would move on. And that's one of the beautiful parts about Kenshi that I think that makes it such a wonderful classic game. Very underrated in that regard. It has gotten acclaimed by a lot of people, but I think that particular regard, people have mentioned it. People have mentioned it was really cool, but I think that it's way cooler than many games. I think the reason why Kenshi has Ooh, there's combat. I think the reason why Kenshi... Oh, he's not combat. He's hungry. Okay, so everyone's going to come back. We need to get food. We're in trouble if we don't. Because we were getting into starvation territory here. Let's get back into this bar down here. We can actually recruit some more people. Help out our mining business. Help out our mining business. But don't let a loss be a total loss for you. Whatever it is. In this case, with Load, the arm, don't let illness, don't let anything be a total loss. You can have your entire life be taken away from you, like item wise, by like losing everything you have with you, right? But you've got now one heck of a story. You've got one heck of a story for one. Doesn't necessarily translate into monetary value, but I mean, you got something. Don't ever count out a story. Don't count out. Don't count yourself out in that regard, because I think that the best stories have probably gone untold because of it. It's because people have counted themselves out way too early, and which is unfortunate. Which in this game, if anything, I want to prove with this little campaign here, that you don't count yourself out, and sometimes restrictions are exactly what make you a character. Now, don't go out there and go, I'm not going to use anything. I'm going to not wear any armor in Kenshi. I'm not going to use any weapons. I mean, that's great. You can do that. Totally fun. Perfect way to do it. But again, like with the permadeath thing, don't let that mean that's the only way to play. It's not the only way to play. Don't treat it as that, it is the only way to play. It's a fun way to play. Maybe a fun way to play. Might not be your way to play. Make a character that you can empathize with. Or, make a character you don't. Make a character do the faction you hate the most. Whatever faction it is. You hate United Cities? Make a player in the United Cities. If you hate the Holy Nation in this game, play Holy Nation. It's actually better if you played them more than anything else. By that I mean it is whatever faction you hate. If you hate the United Cities, play the United Cities the most. Because you hate them. Because you get the most out of it, I think. I think you get the most out of it, at least for me. Right? Play the faction you hate a lot of times. If you like playing the good guy, play the bad guy every once in a while. If you like playing the bad guy, play the good guy once in a while. If you like playing one or the other, play neutral once in a while. It can be fun. Get a bad ending in a game. Go out and just do like the worst you could do at a game. Baldur's Gate is a game that actually came out recently that I'd recommend for that. Do something you don't normally do. Whether it's try to be the stereotypical hero in a game, which in that game you're kind of having to deal with characters that are not always good. They're kind of like anti-heroes at best, kind of. I mean, I haven't played too much. I don't know. I want to spoil it too much. I played kind of. We only have like the first chapter out at this point. I mean, maybe later on, future people, if you happen to somehow come across this, hello, and if it's good, tell me from the future, because so far I've enjoyed it. But you people in the future, let me know. But that's definitely keep that in mind. So play characters that have injuries. Play characters that aren't perfect. Play aren't perfect in, let's say, a skill that you want them to do a lot. Let's say you want a character to be a swordsman. don't necessarily make the best swordsman in the world. Make, you know, if you want them to be, if you've ever seen The Princess Bride, make them Son Montoya. I can't remember his first name. I want to say Indigo Montoya, but I know that's the wrong way of saying it. But I can't say it the other way. I have a hard time pronouncing it for some reason. Inigo, I think Inigo Montoya, but you know, or vice versa. You know, vice versa. You could do Wesley and things like that. And think you could do different things. Hopefully, I didn't spoil anything with that. But don't feel like you have to do perfect. Another fun recommendation is go back and look at a lot of Bob Ross painting stuff, because that's perfect. If you want to get into a mindset of moving and going with things, is like that with that painting, like kind of like with Kenshi, like we're doing with here. Obviously, in a much more amateur way. Bob Ross definitely a different level of, like, he's painting really great paintings, but kind of the idea of that, you know, 99%, like there's a 99% chance the way he's painting it, if he was trying to look at it analytically, probably wouldn't necessarily be 100% perfect, necessarily what he might be thinking in his head, but it looks probably perfect to us because that's what we're seeing. That's all we see. You know, we don't know what other little happy trees he had in there, you know, that he was gonna make. But you know, he made the happy trees that he had the opportunity to make, and I think that's my lesson here today. I think for everyone is make the happy trees in your life, whether in your video games where we have a motley crew, of cast members here, which right now are having a hard time eating, are having a hard time feeding themselves, despite having a lot of money. We're gonna try to probably buy up all the food in town, because otherwise we are going to have some trouble. Well, actually, I think we've come back to the end of our stream, but I hope you guys enjoyed. We're gonna have everyone sit down. We'll have a little nice sit down with everybody. Never mind, I guess not. Hold on, let's find another. We're going somewhere else with more seats. Hold on. You need to finish this out right. I think one of the games in which I think that you can run into a wall. Like if you've ever played The Sims, try making a perfect character, and see how long you enjoy it. You enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. You enjoy it for a while. I mean, it can be fun for a long time, but eventually you're gonna be like, well, I can kind of do everything, and kind of like have anything. I have everything in it. You know, depending on how long you have your character's life. That if you play, turn it on infinite lifetime, and you'll see what I'm saying. Turn it on infinite, the longest possible lifetime, or get rid of the lifetime thing. Play one of the Sims games and have it where you can just live as long as you want in the game. Have it where you can do everything you want, or just, you know, eventually you'll reach into that point. Unfortunately, we do not have another chair, so we'll have you sit over there. So we have everyone eat. Oh, kind of a little depressing. Everyone eating alone. At least get somebody over there. There we go. Actually, we could probably all fit over here. Oop, that's actually another recruit. In fact, let's get. You should get that arm looked at, Romer. Oh, hey, they mentioned it. I happen to be a medic. Oh, that's really cool. See, I would not have gotten that otherwise. See, there's definitely cool things, especially in Kenshi. And how about combat? Can you fight as well? I'm not a terrible fighter, but I dabble in science. Okay, perfect. How much? Kind of expensive. But sure. And we'll just keep them the way they are. And we're going to have them sit. Is that another person? Another person to recruit. Let's get them too. Zim and Swift. 3,000 cats. Gotcha. Okay, we're getting a pretty big crew. I think food's going to be a little bit of a problem soon, because I don't think there'll be enough bars and all these places to actually have everyone eat. I wonder if they can sit on the same bar stool. I have a feeling they won't. Let's have them kind of all sit along the same wall, so we end it off nice and orderly. Again, them sit there. And have him sit here. Okay, so I think that's here. We'll pause it here. But I think we got our little crew all worked out. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope my tale was entertaining. I hope it helped inspire you to go out and if you have great ideas yourself, to follow those ideas. Follow those ideas where they take you. We will be continuing, I guess, tomorrow, and we'll see exactly how far our little band of Okranites can make it. if and what kind of challenges we intend to meet along the way. So thank you for watching. I hope all of you have a great rest of your day. Let's turn off taunt real quick. Just realized we have someone taunting. Actually, hold on. Make sure no one's taunting. Just turn off everything but jobs. There we go. I hope all of you have a good rest of your day, and I hope that some of you out there are inspired to follow in your own creative pursuits, or just whatever pursuits you enjoy, as long as those are what you want to do. Okay, so you guys have a good one. All right, see you guys later. Bye.